Halloween! Ow! This is COFOH Live Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing Brenda S. Tolian. Wow! Well, that was weird. Technical difficulties, everybody. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Anyway, I am joined by the amazing Brenda S. Tolian. How are you?
You got me out of class early. Thank you.
I aim to please. I'm so glad that you could join us and that I saved you.
Yeah, from studying the corpus of obscure text. Sounds really exciting, huh?
Well, okay, so we talked a little bit about that, before we went on. Yeah, what is that?
So part of my doctorate work is, if you will, I'll make it kind of Halloween, is going out to the forgotten graveyard out in the deep, dark woods of books.
Nice.
And digging them up and then trying to revive their dead bones through different means and programs and all sorts of things, and studying them and bringing them back out to the light. It's
nice.
Yeah.
kind of like a gothic Indiana Jones type thing.
Yeah, but of books.
Right.
I like that.
Right.
The Indiana Jones of books. Yeah, no, I got a great director and everything. It's actually quite a fun class. I just I'm writing a book during this class, like an actual book for the class that isn't horror related and everything. So I do other things besides horror.
Nice. Well, Brenda, for those that aren't familiar with who you are and your work, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from and how you got into writing.
Okay. Well, I was born in Minnesota. But I didn't really live there very long, apparently. A lot of my family's in Illinois. I've lived all over the place. Lived in Germany. I've lived in different places in Illinois. I've lived in Savannah, outside Savannah, Georgia. Most recently, last 8-10 years or something, I lived in the San Luis Valley, there in Colorado.
Yeah.
Went to Adams State. Yay, Adams State University in Alamosa, and then I went to Regis University in Denver, where my love of horror was stoked by watching Mario Acevedo and Stephen Graham Jones read one night at dinner for my school. It was amazing. So I kind of lived everywhere. Right now I'm in New Orleans.
Oh, that's cool.
Just moved
Very
here. Yeah. So I'm here now. I just kind of bumble all over the place. So, my home is wherever my bed is, I guess. I don't know.
That's usually a good way to look at it. What brings you to New Orleans?
I just wanted to change. I was here back in the 90s and loved it, and just wanted to come back. It's a weird place because it's not home, but it kind of has a homey feeling because it's just culturally very rich. As far as ideas for writing, they're virtually everywhere. And I can drive about 4 blocks north and see an entire mansion that's decked out in skeletons that are arranged with puns. It's if you look it up, it's just a skeletons puns in New Orleans, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's crazy.
Nice.
These people love Halloween, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've never seen decorating like this. It's like Halloween Town. It's gorgeous and
Oh,
scary and gorgeous, but
yeah.
scary.
That's cool. What what do you have plans for like Halloween down there?
Well, they just had the Crew of Boo, which is kind of like if you think of Mardi Gras, I guess it'd be the parade of Halloween
Uh,
that they have. I know that Sunday is kind of my belated book release party, but they are having a second line for Anne Rice at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, where they are going to actually have the black horse-drawn hearse, followed by the second line of female brass band players
nice.
and stuff. So, and that's going to go around her neighborhood there, and so I'll probably be doing that before the book release thing, and yeah, it's going to be. There's all sorts of stuff. I mean, honestly, this town has always got things going on. There's also a Day of the Dead procession that happens. So that's what, November something. I can't even think of the day right now. I've had so many things going on.
Yeah.
Where they actually have like floats and different things, and they do this kind of grand. I guess you could call it a parade, but it's more like a march for the Day of the Dead down to a cemetery where they have this like humongous altar set up and everything, and they have different floats where they even have a float for Katrina, because Katrina is still devastated this area, and there's still a lot of effects from it, generational and everything, so you see those things in the city. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome place. I
That,
love
that
it.
that's so cool. The you mentioned briefly that you have a book release event that's going
Mhm.
online on Sunday. Yeah, and for those interested, you can go and get Evite tickets through your website. That's scrolling down at the bottom, right?
Yeah, you just go to the front page and just scroll down on that first, the home page or whatever, and then there's like a big red flyer. And I don't remember if I put a button or if you just click the flyer and it will take you to the Eventbrite to get a free ticket to the event. But there's going to be all sorts of cool people there. Joy Yaley, which a lot of people in Colorado know. Bobby Cruz, another one everybody in Colorado knows. Paul Trimley will be there. And Gambino Iglesias will be there. And Maurice Megier, I think I'm saying it right. I always totally mess up her name, is going to be there. And it's hosted by Hillary Leftwich, a very dear friend of mine, who's an author there in Colorado too, big around Denver and everywhere. So yeah, it'll be fun. Anne
No,
Rice, and then that. I mean, I can't ask for a better day than that.
right. You're in great company. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that was a planned surprise between my friend and Raw Dog Screaming Press and the Inkwell.
Yeah.
Kind of all did that, and then I got the text, "Hey, surprise, we're doing this for you, and guess who the guests are gonna be?" I was like, "Holy crap,
That
really?" I'm just so grateful. It's so awesome.
that's so cool. It's like now you got to clear your calendar just to make sure that you
Uh,
show up to your own thing.
yeah, it's gonna be like the pinnacle of my life. It's gonna be so awesome. Yeah, I'll have to plan hard to top that one for sure.
Nice, and that's in support of your new book,
Mhm.
Blood Mountain, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah. Blood Mountain, out from Raw Dog Screaming Press, one of the best presses out there, for experimental horror,
Hmm.
poetry. They kind of excel with unique books. I'll say that.
Yeah,
They often win awards because they really do their homework for books.
that's
So
that's fantastic. What can you tell us a little bit about what uh, Blood Mountain is about?
So it is it's a collection, but it's not your normal collection. So it is it's a composite novel, which means it has a lot of different stories, but they're all kind of connected. In this book's case, is connected by location. So primarily the San Luis Valley. They're in Colorado. Just think the Great Sand Dunes. That's the valley. And then it is also connected by, I'm going to call them insets. It's a small, like, couple of page story that goes between each of the shorter stories.
Okay.
That's told from the viewpoint of the sheriff of the valley, who has just seen it all. He's just seen it all, and it's I wasn't going to include that. That was actually Dr. David Hicks and Mario Acevedo. Like, you need something to mesh these all together to make it more like a novel than a collection. And begrudgingly, I was like, oh, fine, I'm going to do it in second person, which nobody writes in second person. But that's what I did. And it actually worked out really well, to make it kind of I don't know, a little startling to the brain, I guess, when you're reading those insets, because you're like, what, who's this guy talking to? Is he talking to me? Is it me talking? Like, what's going on? So, yeah.
That something like that too. It'd be interesting to see what the reader's response is to such insets.
Yeah. So far, the response has been pretty well received. I'm getting a lot of good reviews, sometimes great reviews. I've had a couple stinky ones, but that comes with being an author. I guess I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's fine. But I would say the book, it's sometimes they call them a mosaic novel too, the way that I set this up.
Okay. Wow, that's a cool description.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it was, writing them, I didn't know I thought it was just going to be a straight novel. But I realized I had all these other stories that needed to be told, and stuff. A lot of them I do a lot of research as a writer. Not saying all these tales are true, but they definitely get inspired. Anybody that's from the valley knows that the valley has some strange things, about it. I mean, they have the UFO watchtower, and the reports of skinwalkers and chupacabra and all different kinds of things like that. Like, it's a very old place with many different cultures, and a lot of historically, lots of different things that have happened, a lot of frightening things that have happened, removal of indigenous persons, and then Hispanic and Spanish coming in, and then the manifest destiny coming in, and people going after gold and silver and displacing people again. So there's a lot of trauma, but there's also a lot of beauty, a lot of haunting beauty, a lot of religious belief, a lot of we'll say probably in the last 30 years, an intrusion of like pagan kind of weirdness, that's appeared in some parts of the valley. And so it's a beautiful place that is rich with stories. If you listen enough, then you can get that inspiration. So
wow, that it sounds like it has the potential to paint quite the tapestry.
Yeah. Actually, when I think about it, like, when you see the cover, done by Daniel Serra, he really captured it really well. Just what I'm thinking of as far as, like, the richness of the stories, the blood that's been shed there, through conquest and displacement and people working ranches and the hard life that a lot of people do to survive there for many, many generations. I mean, a lot of families there have been there for a very long time.
Right.
A lot of my former students would be able to tell me going far back, when their family came there. I had one student who actually, point out in the book, he had not in this book, but in a historical book, he'd be like, "This is my grandma and grandpa," and stuff, and they were here in the, whatever year it was and stuff. So it's just like I said, it's just a haunting, beautiful. It can be brutal and deadly if you're not wise, place. But it can be humongously healing and beautiful for other people. It's just it's a neat place. Just be careful when you go there. Just kidding.
Yeah. Buddy system. Take the buddy system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Always have a friend. Safe word in your cell phone. Make sure it's charged.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who have disappeared in the valley and have not been found.
Yeah.
Like that's right out of the news. When if you don't take care, and respect where you're at,
Right.
bad things can happen.
Most definitely. Like anywhere in the world, it can be a rough road.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Working on this, was there a story that just, really jumped out at you and you had to, kind of, just made you write, your own version of that?
I think, oh yeah. I mean, there's different ones. The idea of there being back in, say, the 1860s or something, reports of cannibalism, old stories and stuff. So Blood Mountain was the first story that I wrote, and it starts with this like mountain madness. Different places you go in the valley, people will tell you that the mountain will either receive you and take care of you, or it will spit you out, and so I started getting this idea of like the mountain of Sangre de Cristos, especially that like part that lines that particular part of the valley. The idea of it being like a primordial goddess, that's been there. And, people have been there and respected the boundaries of the valley and the mountain. And then at other times they come and they do things like, mining and different things for profit, where they're taking from the land without thinking about it. So I guess in some ways it's kind of like a ecological horror. It does have that facet to it because the mountain is constantly a character throughout these stories. Sometimes very much a character and actually speaking in some of the stories. And possesses the bodies, so like the first one, there's Saul Eaton, who's a cannibal. Yeah. I can thank Henry and Holly
Delectable
for that, because they helped me edit that story early on. And but I was thinking about, okay, so he's a miner, he's down below the ground, and he's just taking and taking. It's not even a lot of gold or whatever he's seeing, but he's so greedy, he just wants to consume, and finally, she's just like, no, I'm going to take over your body now, and I'm going to make you do terrible things. All in this just hunger to serve the mountain and get the things out of the mountain. So it's like his own hunger, it's his own consumption, that ends up being the thing that ultimately corrodes his like soul and body, but it's also something that can be transferred. So, it can be transferred. So it's like the same kind of horror aspects throughout the story. It just changes to different people in different, in different ways.
Different situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leaf chimed in and said, "Hey, don't forget the alligator farm down there."
Oh yeah, yeah. Although I didn't actually put the alligator farm in there, but it is a favorite place of my family to go because it's just like the most weird but wonderful. Like it's an alligator farm.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of animals, and they're like there. It's not like your typical zoo. But I think that area like inspired some like I have one story in there called Snake Man, which is a little bit more funny.
Okay.
Which is actually takes place just east of where the alligator farm is, like that area. But it was inspired by a guy who got pulled over and he had a gun. What did he have? He had a gun, a bottle of whiskey, and a giant box, like a wooden box of rattlesnakes in the back of his car because he was gonna like sell them or something like that. And it's illegal to own a rattlesnake in the state of Colorado. Like you're not supposed to do that and stuff. So it's like little things like that that inspire. That's like one of my more. That's probably the only funny story.
It sounds like Florida Man.
Yeah, except for it's
in Colorado.
It's Colorado Man, and he just ends up he has to deliver the snakes. It's this whole thing, and and then that pulls in a little bit of the UFO kind of weirdness stuff. Just it's an interesting story. I would love to see it acted out sometime because it's fun to read.
Yeah. I as you're sitting here describing it, it's the anthology films are also so incredibly popular. There's like 2 or 3 good ones that come out. It seems like every year for the last 10 years or so, and it's like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting to see a complete film of shorts, but from the works of like one writer.
Oh yeah.
I think by the description that you're sharing with us, it sounds like Blood Mountain would be a perfect.
Yeah, if Netflix or Shudder want to pick it up, I'm totally down for that.
You hear that, Shudder?
Please.
Yeah, reach out to us.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be awesome. But I read Snake Man. It's my first big reading of any kind that somehow my friend got me into, and I don't even know how that happened, but I had to follow my first real reading in front of anybody ever. It was on Zoom because it was during COVID and everything, but I had to follow Josh Mallerman reading. Like he was reading a story being Josh Mallerman, and I'm like this new writer who's never really read, and I had to like after him reading, I had to hurry up and switch what I was going to read because I was like, I can't. I'm going to have to read like the funny ones. So I actually read Snake Man. The first time was one of the first times I've ever really read out loud anywhere and stuff. And that's why I switched it. Cause he's like a hard act to follow because he's Josh Mallerman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for so many people, like, public reading, public speaking, that's such a tough thing. How do you approach something like that just in general? Because you also teach too.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends on what I'm going to read. I have, for instance, Snake Man, which is kind of funny, it gets a little bit more serious and scary, definitely, but it starts off pretty hilarious, but then I have most of my other things just start off real serious or just downright scary because there's also, I don't just write stories just to entertain all the time. I'm also trying to talk about issues that are important to me or, society in general. As you and I were talking about before we went live, that horror is just this wonderful medium to be able to approach subjects that are often uncomfortable for people to talk about, or people get really up in arms about it.
Right.
It's almost a way to talk about these heavy issues in kind of I don't think in a political manner. It's just like, here's the horror if, if this goes through. I'm a woman. The Supreme Court's been really doing women bad lately. I definitely have a story for that. My story, The Stone Mother, is approaching that topic specifically. And then I have other ones about, domestic violence. I have one that just talks about abandonment, and what happens. Only it's not abandonment like the person disappears. It's abandonment, and slowly this person is being dried, body dried, and turned into this like taxidermy art installment. Like there's different things like that I talk about specifically, just to explore those topics specifically for women, and things that happen to the female body. I do have some approaches that I use on the topic of rape, for instance, because rape is used all the time, and usually by men, in horror books. And I think it's time for, women to have that moment to talk about our own trauma in our own way. Because often our views are totally different than the very visual, crazy views that have perpetrated horror for so long. So I look at horror as being this wonderful, wonderful, powerful place for female writers, marginalized writers, people of color, LGBTQ plus A. Like, it is a powerful place for us to be able to approach those subjects and have some agency in the world, and in the world that often we don't.
Right. I totally agree. And too often, like previous to the contemporary writing and contemporary films and horror art that we've been seeing right now, horror as a genre has also been marginalizing those individuals. In film, the black person's usually the first one to die. That became a terrible trope, and also the monster has been kind of allegory for the outsider. Whether it's people of color or LGBTQ, and sometimes even women.
Yeah, there's an interesting. It's an academic paper, but I tell a lot of writer friends about it. It's the Cohen. It's the 7 Theses. It's monster theory, and actually, Jessica Brown, Professor Jessica Brown, Dr. Brown, Adams State, had us learn this, and I had no idea when I was studying at the time that I would even write horror at the time. And as much as I probably drove her crazy, she did get it into my head, and I really think about it because it talks about the othering and what how the monster changes through the eras. Dracula is wonderful and we love to read it, and Frankenstein's wonderful and we love to read it, but that's a monster. Those are monsters for a particular time. That doesn't mean they don't show up again and change, because vampires change through the, I'm watching the new Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, how is that?
I love it. I think it's wonderful. It's a totally different it's a totally different take though. It's different from the Interview with the Vampire that I took my sister to when she was 12 and made my mom mad. I think I was like 19 or something at the time. And that's different than like Fright Night, and other. That's just the weird thing about monsters in particular. Like, they can stick around, they often do, but they're changeable. They mutate for the time they're in, and that's really freaking exciting.
Yeah.
So how can you retell something that's been done over and over again? I don't know, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, you notice this, a little bit, or I notice this a little bit with like remakes.
mhm.
The most obvious thing is like, Disney, remakes, from their classic animation
Oh yeah.
to their big budget live, alleged like live action stuff. You get
Mhm.
like animated Lion King, or and then the CG animated live action Lion King. And,
Mhm.
and it's interesting to look at that, and they're successful in varying degrees, but yeah, you're right. I think for like this generation, they're just able to reuse the or use the tools that are accessible now to
Mhm.
integrate that to a newer audience. Granted, something like that, I prefer the older ones.
Mhm.
The animated Lion King, animated Pinocchio.
Mhm.
I think I got 10 minutes into the new Pinocchio, and I was like, yeah, we're done. But
Yeah, I saw the pictures. I was like, I think that might actually give me nightmares.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna hold out for the Guillermo del Toro stop motion animated Pinocchio on
Mhm.
Netflix. I'm like, okay, that one's got my attention.
Yeah.
Just it's like, that's easy. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think updating them for that generation, making it accessible to that generation is definitely key. And so many of today's young people, and I mean even generational, we're learning on how we're affecting each other, through culture, through societal issues and norms and stuff, and
Mhm.
what needs to change. And yeah, storytelling is great. Yeah. And I mean, even like something like Shakespeare. How many
Mhm.
times have you seen a different iteration of a Shakespeare play or film?
Mhm.
It's never
Yeah.
ending, but it's great to see all these different viewpoints.
Yeah. Well, you and I were talking earlier about Carmela,
Yeah.
and um, I was I was so intrigued when I found out about that book that I had to go find it. And I was like, is it really what people are describing it? And reading it, yeah, it really is what people were describing. Which makes me wonder too. And probably something I'll explore in my studies is because I look into obscure, long lost books. Um, how much horror has been ignored.
Right.
And then I wonder too, because I come across so many different books from people of color, LGBTQ writers, back in the 17, 1800s, how many books were
Yeah.
ignored because they weren't mainstream, they weren't they were considered, um, there were actual purity societies that
Mhm.
functioned in places like New York
Right.
and stuff that would actually, if they would, destroy the book plates and burn all the books, and there might only be one or two copies around. So it makes me wonder how much horror is out there that is undiscovered. So that's definitely something I'm interested in kind of
Yeah.
hunting down and trying to find, because that it couldn't just have been Bram Stoker,
Right.
you know? It couldn't have just been, you know, uh, three aristocrat,
Yeah.
elite people at a castle, writing horror,
Right
because
there. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love that story and everything, but I think there were other people also writing at the same time. So how much is out there that we don't even know?
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah, I think even like back then, there's those moments in history where um, society hit some kind of creative societies, hit some kind of zeitgeist too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not like today where everything can be digitized. Yeah, even the worst of it is already uploaded, and it
Mhm.
exists online. So kind of doing like this cryptic um, archaeological, written word finds. It just sounds so exciting.
Mm. And well, that's one thing that I don't think gets enough action is the academic side of horror that's going on. Like the Stoker Con has the Ayn Rand conference, and there's other, conferences like that Nicholas Dieck and Michelle head up they head up the Ayn Rand conference. There's actually the American Popular Culture Conference that goes on in Albuquerque, where a lot of horror goes. A lot of people present papers and stuff like that too. I think if you're going to write good horror, like really, you need to also read widely. First off,
Right.
like you've got to be able to do that. But part of it too is also doing your homework, looking into some research and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you can write some monster novel that entertains, but that maybe that's just all it does.
Right.
But looking at the art, like writers have come before us, who have practiced this art. I'm also thinking of Stanley Weatter. Do you know Stanley Weatter?
I don't think I do.
He did the book Dark Thoughts on Writing.
Okay.
He's wrote biographies working with Stephen King, and he got to know all the greats before us. So that he interviewed, and what was it? Dark Dreamers. He had a show, I think it was like in the 80s and early 90s, called Dark Dreamers.
Okay.
He's a Stoker winner. Hopefully he hears this now, but but it's people like digging into our past in horror and really trying to see what made what they did so great. It's not just the writers, it's also the people that were studying those writers, that digging in and doing your homework can give you like so many ideas on the art, because it is an art, right? Writing, scaring people and making them feel dread,
Right. Yeah.
and stuff. And that's something, half of me is an academic. I can't help it.
Yeah.
The nerd side. But I just find it really enriching to my own writing when I dig into, the old interviews. Like reading old interviews of Anne Rice is like so, it's just like I'll get goosebumps, because she just has like these wonderful ideas, about how to, like, she would write about sexuality quite a bit, and but she didn't have to be super, like, she could write it in an erotic way, but without it being like something that would be like triple X, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's like an art to doing the things some of the greats have done, and looking into some people, some of the women that have come before us that haven't been, studied and stuff. I just, see, I'm, as my professor would say, chasing squirrels and nerding out here.
But then that's the beauty of it, and that to some extent that's what academia is learning about the people that make such great art, and then champion that, bring it to light, and share it with the world as much as it can.
Yeah, it's also listening to my students when they tell me creepy stories about the skinwalker their great granddaddy saw, out in the San Juans. A lot of, I would have students, you need to write about this, miss, so it's also like listening to the people around you, to pick up different ideas, because all those things are really valid and can play into your body of work, the corpus.
Yeah, most definitely. The storytelling, that's kind of the crux of all art, whether fine art, to some extent, postmodernism and everything. Yeah, you name
Mm-hmm.
it. And without that, there's a lot of things that kind of uh, feel empty and shallow. So it's really got to find it, be rooted.
Mm-hmm. I'd really rather write something, hopefully, that sticks in somebody's mind and just kind of disturbs their thinking,
Yeah,
maybe not make them terrified. Maybe, okay, they can be scared to go on a hike. Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
right.
But maybe not sit in their house, scared or whatever. But hopefully the themes that I've also buried into those stories stick with people
Yeah,
and we kind of think about them, like, what does it mean to have agency in this world? What does it mean to be able to have choice? What does it mean to be able to move freely about? What does that mean? And not everybody has that, so what does that mean? And that's some of the great ways that horror can help people um, think about big topics, huge topics that mean a lot to us right now, that we're going to be going to vote on here soon and stuff.
right,
Uh,
right. Oh yeah, most definitely. That yeah, it's such an important medium, and uh, I wish it would get. I don't know. I think you know, as I said, before, horror is probably the most accessible,
mm,
platform for everybody. But there's still, so much of, you know, I guess pop culture that kind of looks down on it. I think it's
mhm,
less so now than it was like, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Just because it seems like now you've got, everybody knows Stephen King or Dean Koontz or
mhm,
Anne Rice. Lovecraft has made a massive resurgence in the fear of
mhm.
the unknown, cosmic fear. Now, and also, unfortunately, the shitty racism that came with them. Um,
Mhm.
but that's
But
kind
then
of the
you have reimagining, like
right.
Lovecraft Country. I wish they hadn't
Yeah,
ended that show. That show was so great.
I love,
The reimagining and turning things, subverting it,
yeah,
to make it something new, that speaks in opposition of maybe what that, the prior author had originally, held as a belief. I find that really interesting. But even when you look like way back, like, okay, there's this one, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a cheesy, probably 80s, I think, film. It's called Ticks. Have you ever watched Ticks?
I know of it. I might have seen it when it first came out, but other than that, I can't remember anything.
It's hilarious. Like, you wouldn't think it has any kind of value or anything like that. But when, I mean, as far as nothing but entertainment, these ticks, I think they're like actually like being infused or fed, or no, some guy's making some formula and I swear it's probably out of THC or something and everything, but it drips down on these ticks and the ticks get really big and they're like eating people and craziness, and stuff like that. But then I was thinking about it. I was like, even then, even that movie was making a stand and a comment on, like radically changing, mutating things. And like, it was echo horror, like, and it's
Right,
hilarious. It's
right.
hilarious, and you wouldn't think that, initially, you know, um
No, that's a good point. Like, when you like look at things like even like something like the Toxic Avenger, so much of
Mhm,
like the Tromaville movies, yeah, tend to yeah. I mean, they're wonderful B movies and ridiculous and absurd, but
mhm,
I mean they are usually commentating on the environment and
yeah.
the use of toxic materials, nuclear bombs, that sort of thing.
And
So yeah,
what other medium can do that, because it can span, it can you can go all the way to primordial oral tales of Tiamat, for
mm,
instance, the goddess who basically gets butchered by her son, and her body is used to make the world.
Right.
You can go as far back as that, and then you can come back to right now and realize that horror has always been a part of our storytelling, and it's always been a part of our storytelling, even when it was oral tales, like around a campfire, because we were warning each other that there's things out in the dark that we don't understand that are going to come and get us if we aren't
Yep.
careful.
Yeah.
And that's always been a part of that. So it kind of makes it, to me, one of the most powerful genres out there.
Yeah. It's cautionary tales and teaching tools.
It really is. Don't go out there. There's a monster out there that will eat you. It's whatever, a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. You know what I mean? And stuff. But I'm sure my mom told me tales just to keep me from wandering off or something. I can't really remember any of them right now, but like those things, like we've always done that since we got up on 2 feet and started walking around with a rock. We've been telling horror.
know.
So yeah, I just can you tell I love it?
Yeah. No, not at all.
I love it.
No, that's awesome. Our time is winding down, but I still got a couple more questions. And after Blood Mountain, do you have another book or project on deck that you can't wait to get to?
Yeah. So my first novel is written right now. It's done. I think I
Cool.
made a TikTok video of it because I was so dang happy. I've been writing on this thing. I've been writing on this thing for a long time. So it's done. It's with sensitivity readers right now because it does have. It's about the valley. It's valley centered again, but it's different than Blood Mountain.
Yeah.
But it has indigenous and Chicana, Hispanic characters in it. So I have it with sensitivity readers because I want to make sure that I'm being respectful to the cultures that I'm writing about. So it's going through that process, and then I'll probably continue on with some edits and then see what happens with that. And then I also have a book of dark poetry that is out there getting looked at. I write other things, I have weird little academic things that I write, but that's not so much horror, but and stuff. So yeah, definitely I have lots of projects out there that I am like dying to get out into the world. So, and they will be coming because gosh darn it. Because I already started the New Orleans, like I just got inspired from some historical stories I was reading about New Orleans. So I think I made a post about it. Was I got super inspired by reading about the 1929 streetcar riots that happened here. That's actually where po' boy, the sandwich, came from.
Okay.
So I'm kind of playing around with that because there was a lot of unrest and weird things that were going on in 1929 here.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of monster. I know it's New Orleans, so everybody figures it'll be a vampire, but I don't know that I could make that much more exciting. I can't compete with Poppy Z. Bright and Anne Rice. Can't do that. So
well, just make it a swamp monster or something like that.
Yeah. They do have those cryptids down here too. There's a lot of other things. There's a lot more than just vampires. As far as stories that have happened here. So yeah, definitely have lots more getting ready to go.
Cool. Oh yeah, we can't wait to see those come to fruition and being birthed into the world. And then Brenda, as a fan, what are you reading right now?
Oh gosh. So many things. Well, I did get this, the new Cormac.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah, his first book in forever, and the first page, like I could have cried. It was so gorgeous. I was just like,
Ooh.
it's definitely Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah.
Funny thing, I'm actually reading, I'm almost embarrassed. No, I'm not. I'm not embarrassed to say it at all,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I'm reading George R. Martin's Fire and Blood, the history.
Oh, cool.
I can't.
Is I can't remember. Is that the newest one that dropped, or is it
I
the one
think
a
I
couple
think
years ago?
so. Yeah, I think so. I was just like, I just need something that's kind of feels like dry history at night, and it
Mhm.
doesn't disappoint. It just has dragons.
Yep.
Uh, and then yeah, I've actually been reading like little short stories that friends have been having me kind of look at. So
Cool.
um some things from PL Pamela Lynn, PL Macmillan, and of course I just finished. I was reading Gambino's new book
Okay.
um, that he has out, and then I'm kind of, yeah, I don't. There's just I read so many. I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, you got a nice stack going there.
Yeah, I have a lot of. I have. I'm always reading like 6 books at once. There is one, a ballad of perilous perilous graves by
Ooh,
Alex Jennings. It's a New Orleans tale.
nice.
It's kind of YA, but it's
Mhm.
really really good. I think we're gonna see a lot of really cool things
Coming
from
from that.
here. And then there's a poetry book, Dear Ted, Aura by Hilary Leftwich. Yeah, I read a lot of books. There's
Good. That's awesome.
just
Man.
lots and lots of stuff. Yeah.
And you recommend the new Interview with the Vampire series?
I do. It's like a little bit, I don't want to call it campy.
Yeah.
It's like scary and then funny and then
Oh,
serious and then scary. It's definitely
that
it's
sounds pretty playful.
yeah, it's a little bit more like how I envision the book, like Anne
Oh.
Rice's intent, and I think she had a little bit more hand in this one, and her son did as well.
Oh, okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm really loving it, to be honest. I'm really loving it. Just just to see um those characters again, to see Lestat, because it doesn't matter who's playing Lestat. It's Lestat is Lestat, and
Yeah.
Louis, um, Louis just the characters are really. It almost feels like weirdly like it continues off of the movie
Okay.
in a way. It's almost like Louis going, "Hey, I didn't tell you all the truth, so now I'm going to tell you the truth about what really happened and when it happened." It
The
feels like
extended.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's something else. I
Mm.
do enjoy it. So yeah, I would say definitely watch that. It was pretty good.
Oh, fantastic. Brenda, I think that's about all the time that we've got, but I want to thank you for coming onto the show and chatting with me and let me learn a little bit more about what you do and your process and everything.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I've been watching your show for a while. Like I
Thank you.
said, I think Mario was the one who was like, "You ought to check this out," and
Yeah.
so of course I did, because I get, it's always good to watch your peers and your heroes, and
Yeah.
see what makes them tick, because I have definitely my writers that I'm like, oh, they're wonderful and I want to be like you. So I fangirl, and over certain writers. So it's always, and you have everything on the show, as
I,
far as the industry, which is really makes you think, in different ways about horror too. And I appreciate that about your show. So
thank you. Yeah, I feel that horror in general is a really broad brush, and it's a huge umbrella, really. It
yeah.
incorporates so many different uh, creatives and disciplines and perspectives and stuff. So it's fun
Yeah.
to see what everybody's doing and what their perspectives are.
Yeah. No, it's been wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. And stick around for a few minutes as we sign off. But again, Brenda, thanks for coming on, and you're one of our heroes. So thanks thanks for being an awesome talent and a fantastic voice in this world.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And of course, we want to say thanks to our sponsors, to Mutiny Information Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. And of course, our friends over at Hellfire Entertainment. Thanks for rebroadcasting us on your social media. Groovy TV. And of course, our friends at Alien Donut Films, to Bill and Angela over there. And our producers, Stephen Santa Cruz and Amanda Armstrong. And to everybody that tuned in, thanks so much. Make sure to go to Brenda's website, Tolian.com, and click on the link to participate in the Zoom reading on Eventbrite. That's this Sunday, right?
At 5.
At 5 p.m. Central Time or Mountain Standard?
I think Mountain Standard.
Excellent. So we got one last comment that came in. Thanks,
I
Dan.
love Gary.
Hi, he's a sweetheart. So to everybody out there, thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Halloween, everybody. Have fun out there. Look out for each other. Remember, buddy systems.
Be careful.
And can't wait to see you next time. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you later, and stay